Alright, so I'm a little late to the party, and I had a lot of theories around the game of Rebirth, such as where the direction the story might go, and in some cases I even got into the specifics of what I thought would happen. Now, while I was off on some things, I think overall the big picture of everything, I actually got pretty well on, and I wasn't too far off. I really just need part 3 to actually prove some of the standing theories I currently have, so I can't wait for that. I also haven't really had much time to start diving into other people's theories, or see what a lot of other people's thoughts on the game are. I've been out of town for the past week or so yeah, this is actually pretty raw for me. But before I jump into where I went right and where I went wrong, I want to cover something really important. My bingo card. And you can skip chapters below, I always put them there. And yeah, there's going to be spoilers in this video, so if you are taking your sweet time and still haven't beat the game, don't watch this. But yeah, my bingo card was a mix of theories and some things I just wanted to just generally happen in the game. And I tried to stay really true to the specifics of what I wrote down. Yeah, there were some things I could have stretched, but to me that would have felt like cheating, and I didn't really see a reason to do that. There are two big things that kind of really messed it all up. That's the Triceratops tank and the Omega weapon. For Triceratops tank, I think everyone kind of was really expecting him to be the Hell House of this game. Instead, it was arguably the Wall Boss was the Hell House equivalent. But yeah, I really thought he would be the weapon that Palmer used to fight us on the airfield. Instead, we got that frog mech and we fought him in Coral Desert. Personally, I think the Triceratops tank would have been a better fit for a desert fight than a frog, but is what it is, and hey, maybe they're saving that for the next game anyways. The second thing was the Omega weapon. Chaos was briefly mentioned by Vincent, I believe, at one point, but Omega weapon hasn't really been referenced or talked about yet. Do I still think Hojo's going to use the Omega weapon at some point to power up Sephiroth instead of using the Mako cannon? Yeah, I do still think that. We know Hojo has said Shinra needs to think bigger and out of the box, but we still don't know what he means yet. And of course, we're going to have to wait till part 3 to see where that thread eventually goes. Now, some of the things I could have stretched and gotten bingo on were the crying 10 times and the 5 glitches. There were definitely a good amount of emotional moments in this game. I talked about them in my review. All the character trials really hit home, and mostly Aerith and Reds took it out of me, but I would think that the trials as a whole only count as one. And I am a little bit of an old softie, and there were some happy moments that kind of got an emotional rise out of me, but I just don't think the number reached 10 in total. Same with the glitches. I do remember Tifa flying off at one point early in the game, and some buildings not loading in right, and I definitely got some of those bright and dark flash moments that everyone I think's kind of experienced. And I did actually have the game crash me on the ferry, so I probably did actually hit this, but it wouldn't make a difference because I would have had to have stretched the crying piece out, so ultimately it wouldn't have mattered. There was also no chocobo breeding, or golden chocobo. I do think the chocobos were a pain in the ass to get, but I still don't think it was enough to really hit the mark. And with the whole new world thing, we do kind of see new worlds that are fated to fail with scars in the sky, but I was kind of specific on how it would be dark and twisted, and that's just not the case. Same with the references. There's tons of Final Fantasy references through weapons and various other things in this game, but I changed it at the last minute to be references that weren't Final Fantasy, and I don't really recall anything too on the nose. You can make the argument that in Loveless, Cloud is very Link-esque with his sword and shield and the little fairy that comes out, but again, that's kind of stretching, and I don't think Vincent's cutscenes were that cool, or at least not to the level I expected, so ultimately it was kind of a bust. But yeah, I don't think I properly earned bingo, so yeah, I'm 0-1 on bingo. So yeah, theories, the good stuff. Now, I'm not going to walk through all of my theories from the very beginning. I'm going to focus mostly on the final ones I ultimately ended up having, and I'm just going to start with some of the big ones that I 100% got wrong. So the first thing is that Genesis would kill Aerith. My idea was that Cloud and Zack would save Aerith in some way, and Sephiroth might not even bother trying to kill Aerith and try to just prevent her from joining the lifestream overall. Kind of wasn't totally off because Cloud does save Aerith in a timeline memory thing. Ultimately, there's a lot of room for interpretation in these end cutscenes, and some things are 100% clear though, and one of the clear things is that Genesis did not put our girl in the lifestream. And yeah, as mentioned, Cloud did save Aerith in one of these branched memories, and Sephiroth seemed not to care too much. Honestly, I think Aerith deliberately changed the events because she knew she had to go into the live stream, so in a sense she kind of offed herself a little bit, but that's kind of just my interpretation of the events for now. I did also guess we would get a Strudiger's Aerith effect, which is kind of where we're at right now, as people are alive and dead in different various realities and memories. So yeah, there's a whole Strudiger's Aerith and arguably a Strudiger's Zack, because everyone is kind of dead in these memories. They're not part of the main timeline, but but their spirits are alive and well. So you can kind of get semantic on whether they're alive or dead, but essentially they kind of fill both buckets. That said, I do still think Genesis will show up in the story at some point in this trilogy. My initial thought was the weapons would actually arise early, and him answering the planet's call would kind of arise and come out with them. But I think with the events of Roche and his degradation happening, and Cloud's absolute fear of degradation, I think there could be an interesting dynamic since Genesis has cured his degradation, so he could kind of tease Cloud and trick Cloud and make him do things for him in order to get answers on how to cure degradation, but it's kind of a little bit of a long shot. In a similar thread to Genesis on things I got wrong, I was expecting way more deep ground involvement, especially since the Yuffie DLC involved a lot of those elements. There's actually very little reference or talk about deep ground at all. I kind of thought Vincent was going to be this catalyst that would lead more into those events, and we would probably even fight a deep ground boss at some point. Though I do think we are going to still see deep ground again at some point. I think Yuffie's going to have to face Nero again at some point in the story, and it seems like Chadley might kind of be involving deep ground. There's a lot of weird fishiness going on with him. I still don't trust this little annoying taskmaster we have, but yeah, obviously none of this was in Rebirth, so part 3, maybe, we'll have to see. Also, even though I didn't really predict it, I just wanted it to happen, we got no Kunsel. It's kind of odd to me that they used Biggs instead of Kunsel, since Zack does no Biggs, but I guess it kind of works as a way to tie into the main group a little bit, give him an in, and Biggs was going over the history of what he knew Cloud as, so yeah, Kunsel really wouldn't have worked that way unless it was a future version of Kunsel who saw the events of what Avalanche did and knew the future Cloud, but nobody would have known who Kunsel is unless they played Crisis Core, so I get it. We did get a lot more lore about the former Avalanche members, like Biggs and Wedge, not so much Jesse. The Wedge stuff kind of wasn't satisfying in my opinion. They did tie a ribbon on it, but was a little bit of a letdown. Maybe they'll do more with them later on in the future, who knows. Some of the things I kind of got right though in a rapid fire way are, I predicted there'd be a lot more history and lore baked into this game, which obviously happened. They put a great effort into giving history of the regions and everything. We also got all that new lore around the Gi and teasing how we don't really know the truth about the Cetra, and Aerith doesn't really know either, so that was really cool. This also kind of rolls into some of my theories, how Zack and Aerith and what they're going to be doing in part 3, which I'll talk about a little later on when I go over some of my newer and continuing theories. But like I said, I was right about the history in the world being highlighted more, Hojo being a bigger menace in Costa de la Sol, Cloud's mind being much more broken and much more prominent, people actually talking about Zack more often. None of these things are major, but yeah, I just wanted to call at least some of my things I got right out. Glenn also has his interesting role now. He was the hooded guy, which a lot of people predicted. Yeah, I already hear the screams right now. Actually, it was Sephiroth and Genova, not Glenn. Yeah, if you're right, I get it, but there's a whole backstory now involving Rufus and Glenn, and it kind of seems to imply from Yuffie that maybe Glenn is actually still alive and still in Wutai. And I do think we are going to see this Rufus turn good point that we never really saw play out. It just kind of happened, but we're just not there yet. Outside of these though, I have some of my big theories still in motions with some things right and some things wrong. So yeah, so we'll hash those things out here. So one of the big predictors I had was that these alternate worlds that we got teased in Remake with Zack being alive weren't just the dead side of the live stream, or weren't just false memories, or weren't different timelines, but they were kind of a weird mixture of everything, and I kind of wasn't too far off on this. They are false worlds, and according to Sephiroth, they're all doomed to fail, although I think we're going to start seeing some more worlds in the future full of hope in part 3, but more on that later. But yeah, these worlds are ultimately hopes, memories, and dreams seemingly manifested, where time kind of doesn't matter, and there are these just like random alternative reality threads that the Arbiter of Fate seem to kind of purge out and keep regulated and prevent them from running wild. And again, they do seem dreamlike in nature, as it seems like you can access your dreamlike memories, since when Cloud goes to sleep, he usually was seeing visions of the Terrier timeline, which kind of leads me into my theory of that when Cloud was at the edge of creation and Sephiroth told him in Remake that he has 7 seconds to do something, basically, that he did create this world where Zack and Biggs were alive, probably because Sephiroth just wants to take it away and bring despair to it. And as I predicted, you can kind of time travel and go through this main life stream to the various different worlds by riding the main life stream, as that's what kind of connects and brings them all together. Sephiroth and Aerith seem completely capable of doing this. Sephiroth could do it since Remake, but Aerith seems to have regained that power, or I guess gained it at the end of this game. And then we've seen that both Aerith and Sephiroth can throw people through the various timelines and realities and memories, because we've seen Cloud and Zack get thrown around all willy-nilly. The main thing I would kind of seem to be wrong on right now is that I thought Sephiroth would use Cloud and force him to use the black materia to bring all these worlds together. It seems like Sephiroth is kind of bringing all these malignant, despaired worlds together just fine, at least for now. The planet's still fighting him. Aerith is kind of fighting him back too. So it is possible that Cloud might be used to bring all these negative memories together to create this dark black timeline, because as I mentioned, Cloud is special. He's capable of bringing multiple personalities, ideals, and dreams and manifesting him into one person, which is what he did to himself with his memories and Zack's memories all converging into one. So yeah, this is a special talent he has, and he can probably roll all these fractured life streams together into one thing, or maybe he can even roll these fractured memories into one materia, but more on that idea later on. Talking through the live stream though, this is kind of my current interpretation of the live stream and all these alternative worlds. The OG timeline is kind of the main live stream timeline that connects everything together. This is the cycle that we've perpetually been going on and that the Arbiter of Fate was keeping guard on and defending. But now obviously the Arbiter of Fate's gone. There's tons of new threads running wild. That's all represented with the various dogs. And Sephiroth is creating and collecting these broken worlds full of loss and despair and all those negative emotions that he loves prodding Cloud about. And it seems like he's working on creating his black, dark timeline, life stream memory full of despair where everyone becomes one with him and Jenova. And he's going to replace the main timeline or main life stream with this, probably using the black materia to do this. He'll basically just destroy the original Final Fantasy VII lore and create his promised land of nothingness in its place. Now, what I also think is Aerith is going to start doing the exact same thing, only she's going to be bringing worlds full of life and hope together to create this white life stream, along with Zack helping her do this. These worlds will be full of promise and hope, like I said. We've already kind of seen Zack trying to do this, as he was trying to bring hope to basically Elmira, Marlene, and everyone when he was in that world. So I think he's going to kind of keep continuing to do this under the guidance of Aerith, more or less. And ultimately, I think Aerith is going to want to replace the original timeline with her white Promised Land timeline. Ultimately, because of this, I think the white and black materia are actually very similar in function. The black materia represents all the negative memories like despair and sadness, and Sephiroth's already been working really hard on collecting worlds and getting a lot of these emotions together, which is why the black materia seems so big and crazy at the end. And I think the white materia is clear because right now Cloud and company are in a world that's fated to fail, and there aren't a lot of precious or hopeful memories around, and there eventually will be. And we've seen other worlds where white materia is a little bit cloudy, but there's not a lot of these, not compared to what's going on with the black materia, because the world of Final Fantasy VII is kind of a bleak, dark world full of a lot of despair and pain. We've seen that through the various characters and party members throughout the story. And Aerith and Zack really haven't started live stream hopping and trying to bring more hope to the world, or hopeful memories and dreams to the world overall. And yeah, the black materia is just big and a swirling mass because Sephiroth's already had his kind of omnipotence going on and already started the work, where Aerith kind of recently just got hers and is getting the journey started. Also, just to harp on the black materia a little bit more, we got tons of lore about it from the Gi. The Gi mentioned that can wipe things out of existence, and our party kind of assumes that the Gi are going to use it to wipe out the entire planet, which would be what Meteor does, but the Gi never explicitly say that. It's our party that jumped to that conclusion. Maybe I'm just being naive, but I feel like they don't necessarily have to wipe out the entire planet to erase themselves, but the Gi never correct the party when they come to this assumption, so it kind of doesn't really help my cause, and it's definitely a big assumption on my end. Also, I'm having a hard time pinning this down, so correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, which I'm sure you guys already are, but did Jenova happen before the Gi? It seems like Jenova came first and crashed onto the planet, and the Cetra sealed her away because of what she was doing, and then became very fearful of anyone from outside of the world. And so when the Gi eventually landed, it would make sense that the Cetra were so fearful and didn't trust them, because Jenova came once from outside the world. She tried to ruin everything. You guys are coming from outside of the world. You're going to try to ruin anything. So essentially the Cetra just said, screw you guys, you're not joining the live stream, and we're sealing you away. This would also make sense that when the Gi created the black materia, that when it's used, it takes on the form of Meteor, because it seems the Cetra feared things falling from the sky, like them, like Jenova. So it would make sense that the black materia assumes the form of Meteor, because that would strike fear into the hearts of the Cetra. But that said, I don't think the black materia can be used for just summoning Meteor. We know it can wipe things from existence, but I feel like it can do that in other ways than just becoming a big space rock. Now, when it comes to the white materia, I've kind of theorized before that Zack and Aerith will start working to bring about worlds full of hope, or dreams full of hope. I think that one of these hopeful alternative universes will be one where basically Zack and Aerith actually convince the Cetra to not be so hateful towards the Gi, and ultimately they aren't oppressed by the Cetra, leading to the stack of negative memories, and instead they contribute to the stack of hopeful, positive memories. But yeah, as mentioned, I think Zack and Aerith are going to be working to try to create more worlds full of positivity and hope, and that's why they shared a lot more history and events of the world with us, because a lot of those actually give the planet negative memories and negative emotions. So I think as Zack and Aerith start moving through the lifestream and encountering and creating more of these memories, we'll visit more of these realities, and basically they'll try to prevent suffering and loss. And I think as Aerith and Zack do this, we're going to start seeing Cloud's white materia grow and grow and end up becoming something equal to what we see in the black materia right now. I also kind of think when they go through this quest of getting memories or positive memories, that they're going to start encountering stewards of the planet, and they're going to have a much more important role later on. But yeah, I think Cloud and Company in the third game, because it's not going to focus on Aerith and Zack. So Cloud and Company are going to, again, carry the main story path. They're going to go to Northern Crater. The reunion's going to start happening. Cloud's going to give the black materia to Sephiroth, kind of restoring his original body. The weapons are going to get summoned. Cloud's going to get his memories back through events with Tifa and everyone. And then I think these interjections of Aerith and Zack are going to be very similar to how we had the interjections of Zack in Rebirth. And yeah, as I kind of teased that before, I think we're going to see Cloud use his unique ability to bring different personalities and memories and everything together. That's what he's going to do with these materias. He's going to bring, probably forced by Sephiroth, to bring all the dark stuff together and enhance the black materia. And he'll do the same with the white materia. He's going to take these worlds full of hope and these memories and dreams all full of hope, and he's going to combine them all into basically a much stronger, more potent version of the white materia than we had before. That was just kind of based on one reality's positive memories. It's going to be based on the hopes and dreams and promises of tons of realities that Aerith and Zack have been working to inspire and bring hope to. And then I mentioned the stewards of the planet before. I think they're going to come in various forms, and as Aerith and Zack kind of do their thing, these things are going to pop up kind of like the summoning shrines, but they're going to be new shrines throughout all the map. And I think these shrines are going to kind of represent some of the people that are important, not just to the world, but specifically probably to the main cast. So I could see like Cloud Shrine that's devoted to Zack's memories, or like Barrett getting one for Team Avalanche, Tifa getting a Zangan one, Yuffie getting a Sonnen one, Red getting Seto, and so on. And I think these stewards of the planet will essentially function like the new summons in the game instead of the typical ones we tend to get. And I think at some point we'll combine all these stewards. Those will essentially be our Knights of the Round materia once they're all combined together. I know that's a little bit of a wild, crazy speculation, but that's just kind of what's mulling around in my head right now when I start thinking about these things. And yeah, continuing to add on to more crazy materia conspiracies. I think when the deep grounds start getting more involved, that's going to kind of bleed into Hojo and the Omega material more. I think Hojo is going to very much use the Omega materia to boost Sephiroth instead of the Mako cannon. And I think Chadley's probably going to be involved in this in some way. I think he's unknowingly collecting all the information of the world for Hojo right now. And I mean, we've kind of been teased this. Hojo seems to have his body somewhere. I thought as maybe he's ultimately trying to create the ultimate materia because he's going to have knowledge of everything, and materia is knowledge and memories. So if you have knowledge and memories of everything, that's either an ultimate materia or an Omega materia. So just kind of, again, random thought there. And then we're going to get all this new Wutai War stuff too that they've been cooking with Rufus and Glenn. And I think, like I said, we're going to see Rufus. We're going to see his actual turn from bad guy to good guy, because we know in Advent Children and in Dirge of Cerberus, he's trying to undo some of the damage Sinra did and sort of has a change of heart. We just never really see that moment happen. And we know, as I mentioned before, we know Glenn was fake, but it seems to imply from Yuffie that there are still those leaders and that faction is still very much ahead of Wutai. So it's possible that he's alive still. Maybe not. Maybe that's just me grasping at straws and hoping. But yeah, it's going to be cool to see how these Wutai events play out, because it's all kind of, it was all optional in the original game, and it mostly involved like Don Corneo and the Turks, and I'm sure they're going to be there. I'm not really sure where it's going to go yet. Ultimately, where do I think this wild show is going to end? I don't know if I'm fully committed to this idea yet, but part of me thinks that the last game will have multiple endings. I know it's kind of a bit of a cop-out, but I think they might do a good ending, a bad ending, and what I'm going to call a true or neutral ending. The bad ending would obviously be Sephiroth wins. We see his dark world, dark lifestream manifest, and we all become one with Genova, and we'll get lofty talks of how when there's there's nothing, there's no pain, there's no suffering, everything's great and gravy. And who knows, maybe becoming one isn't so bad, because now there's no more pain and no more suffering. For the good ending, I'm thinking it would be, you know, Aerith makes her white lifestream promised land, and we get lofty talks, how would you still be the same person if you never suffered? And she essentially removes Jenova from existence, and we see this world where Shinra's a force for good, and the Cetra welcome the Gi, and everyone's got this happy life going on, and Aerith maybe even becomes a goddess in this world and becomes this foster mother figure to some very different form of Sephiroth, who gives him the motherly love that he always wanted. And yeah, this would be super cheesy, and I feel like folks would lose their mind because people always like a negative ending to a story for whatever reason. This would essentially be this perfect world that Aerith always dreamed of, but who knows, maybe that perfect world wouldn't be as perfect as we would think. And then the third ending, the neutral ending that I could see happening, is a lot of convoluted events take place. The black life stream and the white life stream collide together, and we get this merging of despair and hope, and ultimately in the end, we get the original story. We get the original life stream just recreated. It's just one big circle, and all these dreams of the bad from Sephiroth and the good from Aerith, we're just left with what we always had, the perfect mix of happiness and sadness that we always deserved. As I mentioned, multiple endings does feel like a little bit of a cop-out, but you can kind of give people what they want, and then for years on end, you can have nerds argue about which one's the proper ending, so I could kind of see them doing that just for that sake. But ruling out multiple endings, if I was to pick one solid ending that I could definitely see happening, is probably something that's a mix between the good ending and the original ending. Things are pretty close, but some things are different. Like Shinra might be a slightly different organization, probably still trying to get Mako out of the planet, so maybe not perfect. But I could see Jenova still being erased in some way, which would obviously have a lot of long stream effects. Because obviously if there's no Jenova, then there's no Hojo, then there's no soldier program. And without soldier program, I mean, I guess there could still be a soldier program. There was a soldier program before they started injecting people with Jenova cells. That's what Glenn is. So it's possible soldiers and everything would still exist. It's just no Jenova cells. And maybe Sephiroth is still the perfect soldier. He's just an actual son of Hojo and Lucrezia. Or maybe he's some new entity entirely. And like I said in the good ending, Aerith is kind of this foster mother for him that gives him that motherly love he's always needed and wanted. A little cheesy, sure, but I could kind of see it playing out that way, of being a mix of a little more positivity and leaning into the original story a little bit more. But yeah, overall, it's kind of where my head's at for now. As for the title of the game, or initially I was thinking it would be called Requiem or Requiem, but I'm kind of leaning more towards the title being Redemption now. Multiple endings does kind of seem like it would be a cop-out, and I do think that goodish ending mixed with the neutral probably will be where we end up, but who knows, maybe when that happens, planet might get mad we defied fate, and then all these lost memories and dreams and realities might manifest into some new weapon that the planet's trying to punish us with. The planet's going to want to punish us for making this new reality and defying fate and using materia to alter fate overall, and this weapon would ultimately have to be defeated probably by a Citra who travels the planet and ultimately has to sacrifice themselves to defeat this weapon. But this weapon's always going to return because it's a constant reminder of what we committed and when we defied fate, and it's a reminder that we committed a grave sin, and that would be the name of that weapon. No, I'm just kidding. That's Final Fantasy X. I'm not implying that Final Fantasy X is going to be the world of Final Fantasy VII after everything is all said and done. That would be insane. Or am I saying that? I don't know. You tell me. Subscribe and give me more motivation to make a fool of myself online. Drive fast, take chances. Later, nerds.
You probably shouldn't laugh anymore.